It was the summer of 1861. The winds of the Arizona frontier blew hard across the barren land, carrying dust and whispers of danger. Travelers passing through tightened the reins of their weary horses, keeping a hand close to their pistols. Life was harsh, uncertain, and survival belonged only to the strong or to those stubborn enough to refuse defeat. Among those stubborn souls was Mary Collins, a widow with nothing left to her name. Her husband had died in a gunfight 2 years earlier, leaving her with no fortune, no family, and no shelter. The townsfolk pitied her, some mocked her, and a few whispered that a woman alone would never last long in such a land. But Mary's eyes held a quiet fire that dared anyone to challenge her. Her only possessions were an old, faithful horse and a wooden trunk filled with her late husband's memories, his pocket watch, a faded Bible, and the revolver he once carried. While others called her poor Mary or unlucky widow, she simply pressed forward, refusing to let the desert swallow her spirit. On one early morning, as the sun rose over the distant hills, Mary saddled her horse and prepared for a journey no one could understand. Curious neighbors asked where she was going. She answered only once, with a steady voice, "This is my last ride, and I won't return until I've changed my fate." The road ahead was unforgiving. Dust storms stung her face. The wells she passed were dry, and at times she swore she saw shadows of outlaws tracking her from a distance. Yet she kept riding. With every mile, she whispered to herself the words she imagined her husband would have said. "Don't turn back, Mary, not now." By nightfall, she reached an abandoned silver mine on the edge of a canyon. Exhausted, she tied her horse and lit a small fire. But as the flames flickered against the rocks, a chill ran through her spine. The horse snorted and stomped nervously. Mary reached for the old rifle she carried, her hands steady despite her pounding heart. "Come out," she called into the darkness, her voice echoing against the canyon walls. "I ain't afraid. Not anymore." From the brush behind her came a sudden rustle, then two glowing eyes appeared, moving closer, step by step. Mary rose to her feet, rifle aimed, ready for whatever creature or man was watching her. And in that moment, she knew this ride was only the beginning of something far greater than herself. Mary's rifle stayed fixed on those glowing eyes. The desert wind hissed through the canyon, carrying the sound of her heartbeat in her ears. For a moment, she thought it was a wild animal. But then a figure stepped forward. It wasn't a beast at all. It was a boy. He couldn't have been older than 15. His clothes torn, his face streaked with dust and fear. His hands were raised as if to show he meant no harm. "Don't shoot, ma'am," he stammered. "Please, I just needed fire." Mary lowered her rifle slowly, her breath escaping in relief. But suspicion lingered. The frontier was no place to trust strangers. "Who are you?" she asked firmly. The boy hesitated. "Name's Samuel. Outlaws took my pa. They left me behind." Mary's eyes softened, but her instincts sharpened. If what he said was true, it meant outlaws were close to close, and outlaws in this country were merciless. She handed him a piece of bread from her pack and gestured for him to sit. As he ate, his story spilled out. A gang known as the Black Vultures had been raiding small settlements, stealing supplies, and leaving ruin behind. His father had tried to stand against them and paid the price. Samuel had followed their trail, hoping to save him, but ended up lost in the wilderness. Mary listened carefully. Her journey had begun as a personal vow to change her fate, but now it seemed destiny had placed a greater burden in her path. She could turn away, ride back, and forget the boy, or she could face the very danger she'd been running from since her husband's death. That night, under the desert stars, Mary made her choice. "We ride at dawn," she told Samuel. "If your pa's alive, we'll find him. And if those vultures stand in our way, then they'll answer for every soul they've taken." The next morning, they followed the outlaw trail. Hoofprints cut deep into the dry earth, leading toward the canyon pass. Mary's grip on her husband's revolver tightened as they approached. The Black Vultures' camp came into view. Dozens of rough men gathered around a fire, their laughter cruel, their rifles leaning on saddles, and tied to a post at the edge of camp was Samuel's father, beaten but breathing. Mary knew it was madness, to riders against a gang, but something inside her burned brighter than fear. She turned to Samuel. You wanted a chance to fight for your father. This is it. But remember, keep your head and keep your faith. As the sun set, painting the sky in blood-red light, Mary Collins rode down into the outlaw camp with rifle raised high. Shots cracked, horses screamed, and the desert once again tasted the fury of a gunfight. When the smoke cleared, only silence remained. The black vultures scattered into the night, their power broken. Samuel's father was freed, though weak, and the boy clung to him with tears in his eyes. Word of Mary's courage spread fast. By the time she returned to town, people no longer whispered poor widow. They spoke her name with respect, even awe. Mary Collins had faced the wilderness, the outlaws, and her own fear, and in doing so, she gave a dying town new hope. For the rest of her days, folks told the story of that ride. Some said it was madness, others called it a miracle. But one thing was certain, Mary's last ride changed the fate of the frontier forever.